Hi, this is Lester Martin from Hortonworks University, and I'm going to take a few minutes here and run through another demo in the Hadoop Essentials course. These demos, the instructions for them, they're available on the Hortonworks University project within GitHub, and then the repository is simply called Essentials, as you see here on screen. And we'll focus in on this next one, streaming data into HDFS. So other than the sandbox that we mentioned there on the parent README page, there's no other prerequisites for this activity. Like all the demos we're doing as part of this Essentials one-day course, they're all based pretty heavily on some publicly available tutorials, so I got you a link to that. And this particular one, what we're going to focus on is emulating a model where we're getting our trucking data. That was the use case we're using for all these demos. So we're getting simulated events coming off trucks associated with particular drivers and where that truck is at any point in time, and then events. So we're going to write a custom program. We have a custom program written that we'll use and execute. It will generate events like you see on this table here, and they'll publish them to a Kafka topic. So to do that, a couple things we need to do. I guess first and foremost, we need to go ahead and create us a Kafka topic to store that. So I have that on screen. It's just a command line tool to create a topic called truck event. The rest is a little extra noise than we probably need right this second. And once that gets created, what we really want to do next is to go ahead and download that code that will let us run a kind of a homemade generator to make fake events on a real data type, etc. And on the demo instructions that you're seeing me list here, I've already run through these. I've pulled down this zip file off of Dropbox and unwound it, and I went ahead and called out a few. One dependency that you needed to make a change to a POM file. So walking you through that, then ultimately rebuild and repackage that information till we get it to the point where we can run it. So what we need to verify before we run anything, and I should have checked just a moment ago before we even created the topic itself, is that make sure we actually have Kafka running. So log back into Embari here. Kafka is listed on our list of services here, so clicking onto it, looking at summary, everything's started up in good shape. So that's real good. There. A lot of the times in the sandbox, a lot of these services will be turned off, so just definitely need to kick it off and start it. So we got Kafka available to us, and at this point what we want to do is just run this custom program that we have. So I'll go ahead and just copy those instructions right here, and they're just simply running a Java program called truck events producer, as you see right there. So kicking that off. And what that's going to do in a second here is just throw some stuff on the screen to let us know that it in fact is emulating, there we go, making up some data for particular trucks, routes, timestamps, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit a quick Control-C to shut that down. And then I want to make sure, just to make sure that that information is making it out to Kafka itself. So we'll just run another little quick command line just that says, hey, throw onto the console everything on that topic truck event from the beginning of that topic. So it should just be a handful of events, maybe 10 or so events. So there they are. And there we go, hit right on the money, 10 events. Okay. So at this point, we didn't do a whole lot, but we did do, we did preparation activities to get trucking events into a Kafka queue such that we can write a storm topology to process those things. So our whole demonstration is about getting data through a streaming system real time and putting it into Hadoop. So we use a metaphor called a spout. So we have a Kafka spout that's reading that information and then converting them into what we call tuples and sending them down streams of tuples into bolts. And we'll actually have that spout push into two different bolts. One bolt that's focused on just taking the information and putting it together in HDFS as files on HDFS that we could do a variety of things with. Front with Hive, do analysis with Pig or Spark, etc. And we also, just to show the features and the flexibility of this framework and how it integrates with all the first-class Hadoop citizens, we have another bolt that's going to do this kind of the same thing. All the events, write them to a table, but it'll also look for those events like this one, that the event type is something other than a normal event, and kind of do some counts based on drivers and that kind of thing. So for sure, we need to make sure a couple things are happening. We're going to use Storm for starters. We want to make sure Storm is running. These are all started. If not, again, a lot of these are, like I said, not turned on by default in the sandbox, so start them up. And then as far as HBase as well, so I have a simple one region server environment. So I've got HBase, I got Storm, both running as my kind of my prerequisites. And then I also want to go ahead and create some tables in HBase itself to store that information, and I already logged in HBase. In fact, I went ahead and created them a moment ago, and here they are: truck events and driver dangerous events. So those, the DDL is right here on the screen to do that. And there's another operation you need to do around some permissions to make sure all this will work out well. So at this point, what we really need to do is actually invoke and kick off the topology itself. So that big zip file that you downloaded as part of the demonstration, if you do it yourself as a kind of a tutorial or lab, it will have all the source code we're talking about in here. You're welcome to interrogate it. A little outside the scope of the demonstration right now, but ultimately we're just kicking off a Java application that has implementations of this visual topology here that we try to describe, and kicking that off. So let's wait a few seconds here and make sure our topology is up and running. A few more seconds so we can get some action here. And there it goes, started spitting out. And if you read it closely, you'll see lots of good details. But for the most part, what we're waiting for is kind of this last line here: finish submitting the topology. And that topology, again, is going to be reading off Kafka. So let's go ahead and restart our generator that we had running just a moment or two ago here, right there. So we're putting more information back onto the topic itself. And at this point, what we want to do is navigate over to the Storm UI. So what we do there, like I mentioned in one of the earlier demonstrations, when you're in a component that has an additional set of UI controls experiences, under quick links you'll find those. So we'll go to Storm, and we'll expect under quick links, there it is, a Storm user experience, a Storm UI tool to come up. And perfect, there it is right here underneath. Lots of deep and meaningful information, but we'll focus quickly on the list of topologies that are running. And there's our truck event processor, and we see that on the screen right here. And there we go. What we were looking for is these, as we look at the topology, I'll refresh it again. We're looking for the spout itself to start registering and emitting out some data. So we see that happening here, and we see the bolts themselves possibly emitting information as well. So I'll just kind of drill into each one of these things. So, obviously there's much information present on these tools, for sure, much more than we have the time to focus on, but I did want to show you that that this is occurring here. And if we look back at the conversation here, really what did we do? We had a bolt trying to write to HDFS and a bolt trying to write to HBase. So let's go make sure those things are occurring. So in Embari, under the HDFS files Embari view, we just happen to know that the content's getting published to this truck events folder. So we'll look in there. And really what's happening here, and I'll just show these files. They're relatively small. Often many of those just have one record in them. This is just because I set up this bolt to quickly get content in there, but definitely we'd want the bolt that's writing information back in HDFS to lump up and bulk a number of these into a larger file and take care of those type things. But this is just showing that that bolt's working as designed, putting information over in HDFS like what we're looking for. Again, we can do a variety of things: load that information to Hive, do analysis with Spark, Pig, or other tools. And then definitely we were also putting some information into HBase. So if you remember, those two tables were truck events and driver dangerous events. Again, without going into deep details of the code or what these tables look like, I'll just do a quick count on them. So truck events, there we go, 154 events, nothing too dramatic. It's kind of a slow publisher of that generator we have purposely. And then I would assume that our driver dangerous values are going to be a little lower than that, based on not everything should be a problem. So these are actually 4 drivers that we've identified so far, and then we're maintaining counts on each one of those drivers as well. So one last thing I can show you on the Storm UI is when you're looking at that topology itself, there's a nice feature that's pretty relatively new called the topology visualization. And I listed these kind of heuristics as bullets in the readme page here, but I'll just try to, as I have them up, explain it to you. Circles that are blue, those are going to be spouts. Circles that, every other circle that's not blue is going to be a bolt. And the bolts are going to be ranging in color from green, if things are going really well, up to red, depending all about how long it is taking to process and those type things. So definitely the faster things are green, the slower things are going to be closer to brownish, orangish, red, etc. And the size of the circles are going to be related to how long they are taking to process. So things will get bigger if they're taking longer as well, in addition to colors, kind of relative to each other. And then these pipes of information, the streams, are going to be relative amongst themselves. So if this stream had twice the amount of data that this did, it would be twice as thick as this information. So very good stuff. Definitely to explore and give you a quick flare of how we could, other ways we can get data into HDFS and the tools around HDFS, such as HBase. I'll go ahead and just kill that topology so it won't run forever. I'll shut that down. And I'll also go ahead and just kill that code generator that's pumping information off into Kafka. Well, I really hope you learned something today out of this quick demonstration. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to talking to you in the next one. Thank you.